as she was staring, her own mouth hanging open. The man in the leather apron and garnished Burma shorts stared back at her mutely. Below the man's nose, where a mouth should have been, there was a small round hole, the same size as if it had been made by a hole punch. His glistening black stubble didn't divide into a beard and mustache, but it covered the lower part of his face evenly. "Right," she said, not sure what to say next. "Right," she said again. "I think my superior is trying to articulate," said the doctor, nimbly taking charge, "is that we're very keen not to disturb what you're doing. We'll just keep out of the way." But the mouthless man raised his fist and began gesturing wildly. Martha grabbed the doctor's arm to pull him back, worried he might get himself hit. The doctor shrugged her off and began to wave his own arms in similar apathetic manner. It was some rudimentary kind of sign language. "What is he saying?" she asked. The doctor and the mouthless man continued to wave their arms at each other. "I think," the doctor said, "he wants us to go away." He stopped waving and pointed in the direction that the mouthless man was still indicating. The mouthless man nodded vigorously. "Yes, I think that's what he wants." "Sorry," said Martha. The mouthless man, "But you can understand us, can't you? You can't speak, but you can understand English." The mouthless man nodded, then looked back at his colleagues. In the shadow, they nodded too. "Oh," said the doctor, "that's a good point. So, whoever you answer to, whoever gives you orders, they can tell you what to do out loud." Again the mouthless man nodded. Martha felt a thrill of fear. It wasn't that this was a new species of people who weren't born with mouths. Instead, they were some kind of lower order men, able to take instructions yet not answer back. Either they'd been bred like this, or they'd been operated on. But whatever it was, they were clearly some kind of class of slaves. Martha could see in the doctor's eyes the same determination she felt burning hot inside herself. Whatever happened, they were going to free these people. The mouthless man gestured again down the passageway, beckoning the doctor and Martha to follow him. They continued up the alley between the huge machines. The mouthless man's bare back showed strong shoulders and toned muscles. Martha noticed his Burma shorts were all swirls of pink and blue. The alley emerged into a wide, open area about the size of Martha's teeny flat in London. The far wall was covered over with a bank of complex levels, levers, and controls. Not needing to promote did by the mouthless man, and the doctor put on his glasses and hurried over to inspect it. Martha, knowing she'd make nothing out of the controls herself, but keen to at least look interested, headed over to a small insert porthole that to the left of the switches. It must be some kind of inspection hatch to looking into the machine, she thought. She gazed in on a pale gray light and swirled gloopily behind. Despite the clammy heat of the engine room, she found her bare arm suddenly prickling with goosebumps. There was something scarily familiar about the gray light, but she couldn't think what it could be. She turned to the doctor to ask him. His mouth hung open with a mixture of awe and horror in his eyes. "What?" she said. "Oh, I'm so sorry," he said to her softly. "I really am." Martha felt her heart hammering in her chest. It was what he normally said when somebody they'd met got killed. "We're too late," she said. The doctor snapped out of his revert to look at her. Again she saw the glimmer in his eyes, the quick and shy intelligence. Too late? He said incredulously. Nah. It's just we've only been here 5 minutes and I already know what went wrong. I hate it when that happens. Well, not hate it exactly. It bothers me. Brilliant word. Bothers. Like oblog. People should use it more. Anyways, good puzzle should take an hour to solve, at least. Well, with me, slightly less. Let that cornfield maze on Milton Island. You got lost in there for 2 days, Martha said. Yeah, grinning the doctor. Wasn't it brilliant? But this. He waved his hand dismissively at the bank of controls and turned to the mouthless man. Madness. He turned back to Martha. You know what this is? Martha scrunched the levers, dials, and switches. She was acutely aware the mouthless man was watching her, and his leather apron colleagues still there in the shadows too. Of course, she said, laying through her teeth. And it explains why the ship was never found, doesn't it? The doctor gazed at her with the same utter bewilderment as the time she tried to explain MySpace. Then his face lit up. Of course, he said. Oh, you're brilliant, Martha Jones, brilliant. He turned back to the controls and began to inspect the dials and readings with a newfound glee. The key to maintain the illusion of brilliance, Martha leant in closer behind him and inspected the same dials and readings, and display showed complex swirls flourish instead of numbers she could read. I think the TARDIS must have crashed quite hard, she said. It doesn't translate this for me. The doctor looked at her over the top of his glasses. Nah, he said. They're not numbers as you understand them. They're expressions of abnormal mismatch. Kodiakic scale, I think. The thought struck him. Are you sure you understand how this drive works? She shrugged. A bit. Right, the doctor said. He stood up straight again, stepping away from the controls and stretching his long arms back. He seemed to address the mouthless man in changing his mind and turned back to Martha. What bit do you understand? Well, Martha said, it drives the spaceship, doesn't it? Ah, the doctor said, wagging his finger at her. But it's not a spaceship, is it? Sorry. It drives the starship. You can be such a geek. Well, he huffed, puffing, pulling a sulky face. These details are important. The drive here is what doesn't travel through space. What? See, he said to the mouthless man. She was really just winging it. Unbelievable, these people. And you know what they did to the dodo? The mouthless man stared at him, either not getting the joke or too wary to show that he did. Doctor, said Martha levelly, why don't you tell us what this drive does? Yeah, good idea, he said. What we've got here is really very clever. A good century ahead of its time. They should be on the old hyperspace wasn't names. But this, it's, he twirled his hands in the air as if he might help conjure the right word. It's brilliant. She suggested everything was brilliant with him. She found a starship called Brilliant so funny in the first place. Yeah, said the doctor, nodding. It's that too. Cuts out all the boring stuff and traveling between the stars. And there's a lot of boring stuff out there. Billions and millions of miles. And empty mostly except for the background radiation of lots of old TV. There's not a lot to do on the journey to another star. You get old, you die, and you just hope your great-great-great-great-great-grandkids still remember how to fly the ship. Sounds fun, said Martha. Oh, you lot do it with your usual pig-headed determinations to do anything completely bonkers. Have I said how we may my very favorite species, but a bit of thinking and there are ways of cutting corners. Like the time vortex, said Martha, who had taken the elementary lesson of how the TARDIS works. Yeah, the doctor acknowledged. But this lot haven't got anywhere near that far yet, which is just as well, 'cause I'd be duly bound to stop 'em. What they've done here is to push against the surface of the outside of the vortex and through stuff so it resists, so you're short of bounce back off of it. And if you could get the angle right, not that you have angles in such a 9-dimensional space, you skip along it bump, bump, bump. Suppose it's not that graceful, now come to think about it. So it's like skimming a stone across the surface of a lake, said Martha. Yeah, said the doctor. I wish I'd thought of putting it like that. Can we pretend that I did? Yeah, whatever you like, said Martha. So how does this explain how the brilliant disappeared? Well, the doctor said, while all the polished passengers in the upstairs sipping cocktails and the ship is lurching across the surface of space and time continuum like the stone skimming across the lake, he beamed. That is a good analogy. And every time it presses itself into the surface, it's just before it bounces back. Well, it technically skips out of space and time, and that's what makes it move so quickly. It misses out on most of the actual distance. To anyone looking at it for just a 4 of 5 dimensions, it's like it blinks out of existence. He tries to click his fingers to demonstrate, but he couldn't make it click. You get the idea. Right, said Martha. So drives makes it flick in and out of reality, yeah? Pretty much, said the doctor. Now you see me, now you don't. Now you see me again, now you don't again. So it didn't blow up or fall in the black hole, Martha said. It got stuck somewhere. Nobody could see it. Oh, I'd have been able to see it, said the doctor, if I'd gone looking. Well, you've gone a special power, haven't you? Oh, mighty last time lords. Do I go on and on about that? Martha flattered her eyes. All innocent. I don't think I've ever heard you mention it. That's okay then. Still, it would have been a bit easier for everyone else to find it if it hadn't kept this technology quiet. I mean, I don't know anything about this drive. Me. You said there was a big war, didn't you? Said Martha. Maybe they wanted to keep it a secret from the enemies. Maybe, said the doctor, glancing around. Martha realized he didn't want to say whatever it was really while the mouthless men were still listening. But she had an idea herself. The starship's rich passengers weren't on some wild pleasure cruise. While the rest of the galaxy was struggling not to have a war, this lot had built themselves a clever new way of escaping all the trouble. Like she and the doctor would be doing if they left in the TARDIS now. She felt awful about that. With the mouthless man stood there, they would be leaving him to his doom. Isn't there anything we can do for them? She asked the doctor quietly. They're going to be lost forever, aren't they? The doctor took her hand. You know this is how it works, he said kindly. We can't change anything. We have to be responsible. What happened has already happened. Yeah, I know, she said. Still. They also brought this on themselves, said the doctor gently. The driver is experimental, and they got staff to run it who can't even tell them where it goes wrong. Oh, that's very clever for keeping it secret, but it's also pretty stupid. He turned to the mouthless man. No offense. The mouthless man nodded vigorously. See? Said the doctor. He checked the controls again. Yes, see? Our friend here has sent They alert up to the captain to tell him the drive is stalled, but there's not been an answer, so presumably it hasn't gone through. But at least everyone knows their place. The lower ranks literally can't speak back to the supervisor, and now they're still going to cost everyone their lives. It's that bad, said Martha. An effort to engage the ship would drive stalled like this, and it's likely to explode. It's really just a matter of time. We have to do something. The doctor reached out for her hand. A gaze steeped into her eyes. Martha, we can't. Not when it changes history. He gazed at her levelly with his dark, twinkling eyes, but Martha refused to look away. This was too important. She was a proper doctor, even if he wasn't. She had a duty to stop and help, and sometimes the doctor needed her to remind him when he was wrong. All right, he said wearily. Well, pop upstairs. I'll have a word with the captain. A few quick pointers, and then we'll let them go on their way. Martha grinned. Great, she said. You know it's the right thing to do. I'm not sure what to do. But anyways, he turned to the mouthless man. Sorry about the yammering there. He said, I just need to relay a plan. Anyways, we're going to get this sorted out for you. Which way to the exit? The mouthless man again gestured wildly, using his arms this time. He seemed unable to make any noise at all, and the worst thing was that his own frustration for not being understood. Maybe if you lead us, said Martha, trying to make it sound kind. The mouthless man nodded again. They followed him back down the alleyways between the machines and around past the TARDIS, and set into the wall was what looked like the shower of a person-sized booth with a glass door. Oh, said the doctor, dashing over. I've not seen these in years. One-way transmat up to the bridge. He turned back to the mouthless man. It's the bridge, or is it more of a cockpit? The mouthless man shrugged, unable to reply. Oh, never mind, said the doctor, turning back to the machine. Martha, this is brilliant. You step inside, press a button, and ping. You're at the booth, just like at the far end of the ship. It's a teleporter, yeah? Said Martha. Like in Star Trek? Well, not exactly like Star Trek, said the doctor, busily trying to get the door open. It won't budge. For one thing, it makes a different noise. Anyways, for this, it's just for getting upstairs without all the boring business of walking. It's cheating, if you ask me. Not if you can't get into it, said Martha. It's stuck, said the doctor, turning to the mouthless man. I wonder why you'd not just gone to see the captain yourself. Something must be coming through the other way, something really, really slow. It's like being on dial-up. When were you ever on dial-up? Asked Martha. I read about, said the doctor. Well, he said to the mouthless man. That way's blocked for the moment, probably from some movie about a cat on a skateboard. So we'll go see the captain on Shark's Point, on Shark's Pony. The mouthless man stared dumbly at him. He means, said Martha, we're going to have to walk. Why can't you talk normally? What? Said the doctor. And be just like everyone else? The mouthless man led them back to the TARDIS and then off to one side and followed a narrow passage through thickly reinforced doors. A complicated sequence of different handles and locks allowed the mouthless man to open it. Martha had expected to see a plush fitting of a luxury ship, yet a way of bearing by the strange pale skin of material, like kind of fungus that totally blocked out the door. The mouthless man again gestured empathetically, and it was this obstacle he tried to explain. Somebody really doesn't want us getting out of here, said the doctor. Cord, this is unusual. He put his hand out and stroked the pale surface. Feels like cold scrambled eggs. You don't know what that is, said Martha. Yeah, said the doctor, I've seen it before. The TARDIS can get clogged with this stuff. And some sort of time fungus, then. It's like a technical name for it, obviously, laughing at the doctor. You can get it when time doesn't quite meet up. Time right comes in chunks. Chunks? Said Martha. Yeah, said the doctor. Really, but chunks sound so silly. It's a lot. So your lot uses the Greek word quanta. Like quantum mechanics, said Martha. That's it exactly, said the doctor. So it comes in chunks, and stuff lives in the gaps between the moments, between the Planck units, ships like this. It makes going to make a lot of it. But it's weird to see it inside the ship. Some kind of weed? Nothing like that. Something much, much more particular. You imagine you're in a lift going between different floors. It's another analogy, isn't it? Said Martha. Yes, another analogy. And only way you'll understand it. Right, you're in the lift, but it's one of those old warehouse lifts where it doesn't have any doors. So you see the floor going by. Yeah, that's it. And when you're between floors, well, you see a bit between the floors. Concrete and stuff. Right. And now, what happens if our little bump has stopped and ship between different floors? Only some of the ship on the one floor and some on the other. So this is the concrete between floors. Martha rubbed her hand against the pale substance. Yes, and it's soft and rubbery like cold scrambled eggs. Yeah, said the doctor. Normally no one sees it, which is good because it doesn't make a mess. So, we can't get through it then. The doctor laughed. What? He said. When I've got this. He brandished the sonic screwdriver. You just need setting 28. He waved the sonic screwdriver at the scrambled egg material. After a few seconds, he poked the eggy skin with his finger. His fingertip broke through the surface. See, he said. She just thought sharper before it hardened again. It's that simple, said Martha. Not a wholly convicted. Trust me, said the doctor. She laughed. You know, you only say that when it's really bad. Do you want me to go first? That was enough to decide her. No, she said. You can cover my back.